I never thought a stack of library books would be the breaking point in my relationship with my mother-in-law, Linda. But there they sat on our kitchen table, the source of yet another lecture about my overly permissive parenting style. Emma, sweetheart. Linda's voice dripped with artificial sweetness as she gestured at the pile of books my kids had picked out during our weekly library trip. Don't you think Sophia and Max should be learning real-life skills instead of burying their noses in these fantasies? I took a deep breath, counting to 5 silently, just like my therapist suggested. At 34, with 2 amazing kids and 10 years of marriage under my belt, I still found myself tensing up every time Linda started one of her helpful suggestions about my parenting. The kids do plenty of age-appropriate chores, Linda, I replied, keeping my voice steady as I continued preparing dinner. They make their beds, help with laundry, and clear their dishes, but they also love reading, and I won't apologize for encouraging that. My daughter Sophia, 9 years old and wise beyond her years, sat at the kitchen counter quietly doing her homework, though I could see her shoulders tense at the familiar sound of her grandmother's disapproving tone. 7-year-old Max was in the living room, completely absorbed in his new dinosaur book. Linda picked up one of Sophia's fantasy novels, examining it like it was something she found stuck to the bottom of her designer shoes. When I raised Michael, he was doing real work by their age, mowing the lawn, cleaning the garage, scrubbing bathrooms. That's how children learn responsibility. I bit back the urge to remind her that Michael, my husband, had also spent years in therapy dealing with the pressure of never feeling like he could just be a kid. Instead, I smiled tightly and continued chopping vegetables for dinner. Times have changed, Linda. The kids are doing great in school, they're happy, and they're learning responsibility in ways that work for our family. That's exactly the problem. Linda's voice rose sharply, making Sophia flinch. This modern parenting nonsense is creating a generation of lazy, entitled children. Look at them. Sophia should be helping you with dinner, not doing homework that can wait. And Max, lying around reading when there's work to be done. Mom, please, Michael's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him come home from work. We've talked about this. Emma and I agree on how we're raising our kids. Linda turned to her son, her expression softening instantly. Michael, darling, I'm just trying to help. You know I want what's best for my grandchildren. But they need structure, discipline. When you were their age. When I was their age, I was miserable, Michael cut in, his voice firm but tired. We'd had this conversation so many times. I never want my kids to feel the way I did, like nothing they did was ever good enough. I watched Linda's face cycle through her usual repertoire, hurt, indignation, martyrdom. Everything I did was for your own good. And look how well you turned out, successful career, beautiful home. You should be thanking me. I have a successful career and a beautiful home because I worked hard for them as an adult, Michael replied. Not because you made me spend my childhood doing endless chores instead of pursuing my interests. Linda's lips trembled. Right on cue, I thought, recognizing the beginning of her trademark emotional manipulation. I see how it is. You've turned my own son against me. Well, fine. I know when I'm not wanted. She gathered her designer purse and car keys, making a show of wiping her eyes. But don't come crying to me when these children can't function in the real world because they've never learned proper discipline. After she left, Michael wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. I'm sorry, he murmured. You know how she gets. I leaned back against him, letting out a long breath. I just wish she could see how amazing our kids are. Sophia's reading 2 grades above her level. Max is absolutely brilliant at science, but all she sees is that they're not spending every free moment doing chores. Mommy? Max's small voice came from the living room doorway. Is Grandma mad at us again? My heart clenched. I hated that our children had to worry about their grandmother's approval. No, sweetie. Grandma just has different ideas about some things. Come here. Max ran over, and I scooped him up, even though he was getting almost too big for it. His dinosaur book was still clutched in his hand. Tell me what you learned about velociraptors today. His face lit up as he launched into an enthusiastic explanation about pack hunting behaviors and fossil discoveries. Sophia drifted over to listen, adding her own facts from a documentary she'd watched. Michael caught my eye over the kids' heads, love and pride clear in his expression. This was our family, imperfect, loving, and yes, maybe a little book obsessed. And I wouldn't change it for anything. What I didn't know then was that Linda's criticism of our parenting was about to escalate from passive-aggressive comments to something far more serious. The stack of library books on our kitchen table was just the beginning, and the video that would change everything was already being recorded, though none of us knew it yet. The following week started normally enough. The kids went to school. Michael headed to work, and I tackled my freelance writing assignments. But on Wednesday afternoon, everything changed. I was picking up the kids from Linda's house. She had insisted on watching them after school despite our recent tension, claiming she wouldn't let a little disagreement affect her relationship with her grandchildren. As I pulled into her driveway, I noticed Sophia's tablet was still recording from when she'd been practicing her presentation for science class. I reached to turn it off, but then I heard voices from inside. "But Grandma, Mom said we should finish our homework first." Sophia's voice came through clearly. "Your mother isn't here right now, is she?" Linda's tone made my blood run cold. "The windows need washing, and you children need to learn real responsibility. Books and homework can wait." I sat frozen in my car, listening as my mother-in-law continued. "When your father was young, he knew better than to talk back. Now put that tablet away and get the cleaning supplies." "But I have a science presentation tomorrow," Sophia started. "Enough." Linda's sharp voice made me flinch. "This is exactly what I've been telling your parents. You're both becoming lazy and disrespectful. No more books until all your chores are done." I heard Max's small voice pipe up. "Mom says reading helps our brains grow." "Your mother is ruining you both with these modern ideas," Linda cut him off. "Now, Max, you start with the baseboards, Sophia, windows. And if you do a good job, maybe I won't have to tell your parents about how you tried to disobey me." That was enough. I grabbed my phone, saved the recording from Sophia's tablet, and marched to the door. Through the window, I could see my children reluctantly gathering cleaning supplies while Linda stood over them, arms crossed. I threw open the door, making Linda jump. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" "Emma." Linda's face shifted instantly into a pleasant smile. "I was just teaching the children some valuable life skills." "By undermining our parenting? By threatening them?" My voice shook with anger. "By keeping them from their schoolwork." Linda's expression hardened. "Someone needs to teach them discipline. You and Michael are raising them to be soft, entitled." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Kids, get your things. We're leaving." "Emma, you're overreacting," Linda started, but I'd had enough. "No, I'm really not. You don't get to ignore our parenting decisions. You don't get to manipulate our children or threaten them into keeping secrets from us." "I would never," Linda began, but I played the recording from Sophia's tablet. Her face went pale as her own words filled the room. "Mom was right," Sophia whispered to Max as they gathered their backpacks. "Grandma does sound different when she's alone with us." Linda's face flushed red. "How dare you spy on me, in my own home?" "It was an accident," I said coldly. Sophia's tablet was still recording from her presentation practice. "But I'm glad it was. Michael needs to hear this." "You wouldn't," Linda's voice wavered. "He'll never forgive you for turning him against his own mother." I guided the kids toward the door. "You did that yourself, Linda. We're done here." The drive home was quiet. In the rearview mirror, I could see Sophia comforting Max, who was sniffling softly. "I'm sorry, Mom," Sophia finally said. "We should have told you sooner. Grandma's been like this a lot when you're not there." My heart broke. "This isn't your fault, sweetheart. None of it is. You two did nothing wrong." "Are we in trouble?" Max asked in a small voice. "No, baby. The only person in trouble is Grandma for treating you this way." When we got home, I sent the kids to play in the backyard while I called Michael at work. "You need to come home," I said when he answered. "There's something you have to hear." He must have heard something in my voice because he didn't argue. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. I spent those minutes pacing, alternating between anger at Linda and heartbreak for my children. When Michael walked in, I wordlessly played him the recording. His face went through a range of emotions: shock, pain, anger. When it finished, he sat heavily on the couch, head in his hands. "All these years," he said quietly, "I told myself she must have changed, that she wouldn't do to our kids what she did to me." He looked up at me, eyes glistening. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have seen it sooner." I sat beside him, taking his hand. We both wanted to believe the best of her. But now we know. "Where are the kids?" "Backyard. They're pretty shaken up." Michael nodded, jaw set. I need to talk to them. Then I'm calling my mother. What are you going to say? He squeezed my hand. That she's lost the privilege of unsupervised visits with our children, and if she ever wants to see them again, she needs professional help to deal with her controlling behavior. I leaned against his shoulder, relief and sadness mingling in my chest. You know she's going to fight this. Let her, Michael said firmly. Our kids come first. Always. Linda's reaction was exactly what we expected, explosive. Within hours of Michael's phone call, our phones were flooded with messages from family members. Linda had launched a full-scale campaign to paint herself as the victim, claiming we were cruel for keeping her grandchildren from her over a simple misunderstanding. You've got to see this, Michael said one morning, showing me his phone. Linda had posted a long social media rant about modern parents who value screens and storybooks over traditional family values and how a grandmother's love is being criminalized. I would have laughed if it wasn't so sad. Should we respond? No, Miyagi smiled, scrolling down to the comments. Look, to our surprise, support was pouring in, but not for Linda. My sister-in-law, Kate, had commented, Mom, we all heard the recording. You threatened your own grandchildren. Get help. Michael's cousin Tom added, This explains why my kids never wanted to stay at your house. They always said Aunt Linda made them feel bad. More family members chimed in with similar stories. It seemed Linda's controlling behavior wasn't just limited to us. She'd been doing this to multiple families for years, but everyone had been too afraid to speak up. The next morning, I found Sophia sitting on our front porch, reading her favorite fantasy novel. She looked up as I sat beside her. Mom, is it bad that I sometimes miss Grandma, even though she was mean to us? I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. No, sweetheart. Feelings are complicated. We can miss someone and still know they need to change their behavior. Max is afraid she hates us now, Sophia confided, because of the recording. Come with me, I said, leading her inside. Max was at the kitchen table, drawing dinosaurs. Family meeting time. Michael joined us, and we gathered around the table, our favorite place for family discussions. Max crawled into my lap, even though he usually claimed he was too big for that now. I want you both to understand something, Michael began. What happened with Grandma isn't your fault. The recording didn't cause this problem. It just showed us what was already happening. Your dad and I are proud of you, I added. You're both kind, smart, and hardworking. Grandma needs to learn that there are many different ways to raise good kids, and that forcing children to work instead of letting them learn and play isn't okay. Is she going to get help? Max asked quietly. Michael smiled gently. We hope so, buddy. Aunt Kate found a family therapist who might be able to help Grandma understand why her behavior hurts people. If Grandma agrees to go and really works on changing, maybe we can start having short visits again someday. With us there to supervise, I added firmly. A few weeks later, we got an unexpected email from Linda. The subject line read simply, I'm sorry. Dear Michael, Emma, Sophia, and Max. Kate helped me find a therapist, and in our sessions, I've been forced to confront some hard truths. I was raised believing that strict discipline and constant work were the only way to raise successful children. I carried that belief into raising Michael, and now I see how much damage that did. Seeing my grandchildren happy, creative, and thriving should have shown me there are better ways. Instead, I let my rigid beliefs blind me. I tried to control them the way I controlled everything in my life, and in doing so, I almost lost them completely. I've enrolled in a 12-week family therapy program. I don't expect this to fix everything immediately, but I want you to know I'm trying to change. If you're willing, maybe we could meet for ice cream sometime, with both parents present, of course. I'd like to get to know my grandchildren for who they really are, not who I tried to force them to be. Love, Mom/Grandma. Michael and I read the email several times, then shared it with the kids. What do you think? We asked them. Would you be willing to give Grandma another chance with us there? Sophia and Max looked at each other, having one of their silent sibling conversations. Finally, Sophia spoke. Could I bring my new book to show her? The one about the girl who saves her kingdom with magic and science. Of course, I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. And my dinosaur facts, Max added hopefully. Absolutely, Michael assured him. The following Saturday, we met Linda at an ice cream parlor. She looked different, softer somehow, less rigid. When the kids cautiously showed her their books, she listened. Really listened. And when Max launched into a detailed explanation of why velociraptors probably hunted in packs, she didn't interrupt or try to change the subject to chores. Instead, she asked questions, genuine questions about what interested them, what they were learning, what made them excited about reading and learning. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments and old habits that showed through. But as I watched Linda engage with my children, really engage, not just criticize and control, I saw hope for real change. Sometimes the hardest part of family drama isn't the conflict itself, but finding the courage to break old patterns and create new ones. As I watched my mother-in-law finally connecting with her grandchildren over ice cream and books instead of chores and criticism, I knew we'd made the right choice in standing our ground. Our family was healing, one page at a time.